So till here we have done. So what we have done is, so if the username and password is valid, what are we doing is we are redirecting the user to the same, we are printing it as logged in, and if the username and password is invalid, we are just printing it as invalid login. But rather than this, what we have to do is, you need to check whether the username and password is valid. If it is valid, then the user should be redirected to the home page. If it is invalid, then the user should be redirected to the login page. This is what we require. If the username and password is valid, then you should send the user to the home page. Otherwise, the user should be redirected to the login, the same page. And if you are redirecting the user to the same login page, so this is how it happens. Now, if it is valid, you have to send the user to the home page. If you observe over here, if the username and password is valid, you should send the user to the home page. And if there is any error message, you should send this user to the login page. Now, in order to redirect the user from one page to the another page, that is, in order to transfer the control from one page to the another page, we discussed we have got a request dispatcher. We discussed that we have got request dispatcher that will help you transfer the control from one page to the another page. So when you say request dispatcher, this one, if it is valid, we have got a request dispatch. So you need to invoke request dispatcher dot get request dispatcher. So you want to transfer the control to the home page, to whichever page you want to transfer the control. You call the name of this page, and then say what you can do is rd.forward request comma response. Otherwise, if the username or password is invalid, request.set attribute of error, username or password is invalid. You have to set the error message, username or password is invalid, and then you have to dispatch this request back to the login page or back to the image page. Is it clear?
What is the error attribute?
Like you are passing the username and password, but that username and password is not there in the database. You're typing username and password, but that is not there in the database. This is something like this. Now you've got gmail.com. This one, the email and the password you entered does not match.
Oh, we are sending some message. Not it's not like a user input or something. We are sending some message from the code.
Can you please repeat?
Here that error attribute we are sending. It's not user input. Basically, we are setting some message from the code.
Yeah, it is from the server side. This is always from the server side. User input is this, the
Okay.
email address and password, whatever you send. The password what I'm sending, it does not match with the server. So the server is sending you the message, the
Okay.
email
Okay.
and the
Server message.
password
Okay.
selected does not exist. So this is what we are supposed to do. So if you have to send any
Okay.
message from server to the client, then what you will do is you will take help of this request attribute. Request.set attribute, error, key, and then the value pair. It takes two parameter, key and then the value pair. So you're storing this detail in the
Okay.
request object and sending it back to the server. So first we will do it simple one. Then next we will add the error attribute. So rather than writing print writer, you should use
So Atika, is it a response or is a request? When
Storing the
we
attribute,
get the error message
error
and
message is
send back to
request,
login page.
request. Okay, just hold on for a second. I'll explain the logic behind that.
Sure.
Request. So what you can do is, I'll take one more parameter over here, string URL. So if it is true, you have to send this to which page we said yes, home.jsp. And if it is incorrect, request URL is equal to, in our case, it is, I think, index.jsp. Sorry, it is index.html. Now, I'm taking help of request dispatcher. Request dot get request dispatcher, whichever URL, either to home or login, sorry, or to the index page. And then what you have to do is rd dot forward request comma response. Done. So I need to create one page called home page. Home page template. I'll pick up some home page template from here. It has got a lot of files. I'll just create one basic, right click new JSP, and then I'm giving the name as home. Home page to be developed. Now let us run this. Now this request dispatcher is mm, as this. Just hold on for a second. I've stopped sharing the screen. Okay. Now, let us discuss about the request dispatcher, which we have already discussed. What happened? I hope visible. Hmm. So whenever you are sending the request, you've got two types, external and the internal. External request is when you're receiving the request from the browser, then it is called as external request. That is, you're receiving the request from the browser, then it is called as external request. And then internal request is when one web component is invoking the another web component within the same web container. Internal request is when one web component is invoking the another web component. It might be either servlet or it might be either JSPs. What is invoking, then it is called as internal. Now, what happens? Now, over here, you want to transfer the request from this to this. This is the red servlet and this is the blue servlet. So if you want to transfer the request from one servlet to the another servlet, you will take help of the request dispatcher. Request dispatcher RD is equal to request.get request dispatcher of blue. So when you're taking help of this, that is the job of the request dispatcher. It is an interface that is provided in the HTTP, sorry, Java x.servlet.http.http servlet dot request dispatcher. Now from here you will transfer the request to this. So specify the name of the servlet or the web component to which you want to transfer the request. Once you specify, then when you invoke rd.forward request, response, the web container will transfer the control from red servlet to the blue servlet. So when it is transferring the control, if you observe, it will disassociate the current servlet with the request and the response object, and then it will pass on the same request in the response object. And this servlet will have access to this. Clear with this? This is what it happens. This will, and one more example what we have is, this we have already done. So this is one servlet and this is the another servlet. So when the request is coming to the green servlet, you want to transfer the control from green to blue. So if you have to transfer the control from one servlet to the another servlet, you take help of request dispatcher. You're having a web page wherein you are prompting the user to enter two numbers, number 1 and number 2. The data entered by the user is carried from client to the server in the request scope. That is, number 1 will be stored in 10, number 2 is stored in 20. Now, if you have to retrieve this number 1 and number 2 in the servlet, you have, as we have already done, request.get parameter of number 1, number 2, and then you are calculating the sum and you're storing it. Integer sum is equal to n1 plus n2. Now what you want to do is you want to store this sum in the request scope, that is in this request object. So if you have to store the sum in the request object, you make use of this request.set attribute of sum comma sum. So this is the request object. In this request object, you are storing this. Simple. If you have to share any data between multiple requests across a request and the one request and response cycle, then you can share it in the request scope. That is sharing the object in the request scope. sum is equal to 30. Now, this is done. After you do it, you're calling request dispatcher, and then you're passing the control to this factorial servlet. That is, this servlet is capable of only adding the numbers. This servlet is only capable of adding the numbers. After it has added the number, then next the responsibility of calculating the factorial servlet is with this servlet. So what are we doing is add.forward request comma response. So when you do this, it transfers the control to this. And then you have got again public void do get, retrieve the attribute, and then you can just print it. When you're printing it, so if you see over here, when you call out.println, it writes the response to the response object, and then it sends the response. Container will send the response back to the server. Clear with this? After the response is
Question here, Atiga. We are forwarding the request object from one servlet to another servlet. Yeah, it is carrying some more parameters from one servlet to another servlet. Whereas the response object, that is also being forwarded. So, what is the purpose of it? Is it to combine in case the first servlet is also having some response and second servlet is also having some response? Is it to combine them?
no. If in case you can only add cookies, if out.println is committed, you cannot. Yes, in case of cookies, yes, you can combine it. Let's say in this cookie you're adding some data to the response object. Yes, it can be combined. It is the same request and response object. If you observe, it is the same request and response object. So whatever data is added, it is carried forward. The container is not creating new request and response. It is the same. It is treated as one request.
Okay. Only if cookie is there, the response from the two servlets can be combined. I don't know cookie. I missed that session, but just I'll remember it for now. If cookie is there, we can combine the response from two servlets. Otherwise, we cannot combine it. That's what you mentioned.
No. It is the same. Whatever you are, let's say you are adding some XYZ stuff to this response object. Yes, it can be combined. Because if you observe, it is the same data that is being carried forward. Whatever you add, it can be combined.
Okay. Okay. So the same response,
Yes.
the response from the red servlet will be returned all the way to the user.
Yes. It will carry the response from the green as well as red, both. Because it is the same object. Container is not creating a new object.
Okay.
Because if you observe over here, in this request object, this number 1, number 2, and sum, it has been added in the green one. So when you say rd.forward, the container will pass the same request and response object. That is what the signature is. See, request comma response.
Okay.
So it is transferring the same request and response object. The container will not create new request and response object for factorial servlet. This is called as internal dispatch. One servlet is invoking the another servlet. This is called as external because you are invoking the green from the web browser. This is called as external. But when one servlet is invoking the another servlet internally, then that is called as internal request dispatch. And under that, you are using rd.forward. So when you call rd.forward, that the arguments request comma response, you're passing the request and the response object. So the same object is carried forward. Clear on this?
Yeah. Yes.
Now, this is done. Now, when it sends the response back to this client, we say the cycle is completed, one request and one response cycle. So this was the request cycle. Finally, okay, this request has had this, and this is the one response cycle. So this request and response cycle has been completed. So once the request and the response cycle has been completed, the container will destroy both the objects, request as well as response. So this is the lifetime of your request and response object. So once the response has been committed to the client, your request and the response object is destroyed. Clear on this?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Now let me make some. Now let me just copy this stuff. Now the same stuff what we want to do is, this is your login servlet and this is your home page. Now over here, instead of number 1 and number 2, you're receiving what? I'll just use shortcuts user, and the second one is what? Password. Now over here in this, in the user, it will store, let's say, Tom, and the password, let's say Tom at the rate 123. So over here, let me increase this font. Now over here you're retrieving this request and then the response. Request.get parameter of user, and then okay, you need to retrieve this request.get parameter of what is that, password. After you have retrieved, rather than checking this, assume you have connected to the database and then you have verified the username and then the password. So what it does, if user dot, if valid, I'm just writing to make it short. If valid, then it should send request dispatcher. I'll just rd is equal to request dot get request dispatcher. I'm just writing the shortcuts to home dot JSP. Otherwise, it should send this request back to the login page. But before it is sending the request to the login page, what are you doing is, sorry, to the error page, to the login page, you have to add this username or password, user slash password is invalid. I'll just use the shortcut PW. So this is what it has to do. Now when it's doing this, yeah, it will store this in the request. Error is equal to user slash password invalid. So let me decrease this font size for this. So username or password is invalid. RD is equal to request dot get. This is not the exact syntax. Request dispatcher. You are sending the request back to the login page. In our case, it is home page. Index dot. It has to be JSP. So over here, Over here you have got username, or let me just copy this stuff. So error request.get attribute error, and then you just print it. Error, and then again this one has error. Error. Your error is username user/password is invalid. Let me just try to fix this on the single line of. Okay, now let us just run through these slides. So you have got login servlet, and then you need to transfer the request either to the home page or back to the uh, what do you say, index page. So this is okay with us. Request.set attribute you're storing. If there is any error message, you're storing that in the request scope. So when you are transferring the control, I did not make the change. So your error object will also go. So when you are retrieving this, string error is equal to request.get attribute of error. You are retrieving this error message and you are printing it onto the screen. That is username or password is invalid. Clear with this?
Yeah.
Over here, most of the places it is same. It takes time to change at all the places, but that is the basic logic. Right click and then say run. So our module is index.index1, I guess. So log in into your account, John. John, 123. If it is correct, it should be redirected to the home page. Home page to be developed. Now, if it is incorrect, it should print the error message over here. Username or password is invalid. So point number one, if you have to display any JSP messages, this you should have JSP file, not HTML. So this is HTML extension. It should be JSP extension. So point number one, you have to make change to this. It should be the JSP extension. So once you have changed this, you have got over here. Log into your account. Whatever you want to display. Let me just display the message onto the top. So if you have to retrieve, you can do it this way. Because the message is stored in the request object, you can say request scope dot and the key is error. So that from the request scope, that is from the request object, retrieve the error message, retrieve the error attribute value from the request object, retrieve the error attribute value. This is how it can be done. So you need to transfer this control to index underscore one.jsp instead of this HTML. It should be index underscore one.jsp. Now, let me do it. Index underscore one. Sorry, one dot. So this time let me give incorrect credentials. Okay, it did not display. So you need to check for the error message. Okay, fine. The reason it did not display is because we did not set it over here. You have to set this. So in the request scope, what are you setting? Request dot set attribute of your key is error, and the message what you're setting is username slash password is invalid. So this message what we receive is from the server side. I will type in index.jsp. Okay, it is index underscore one dot .jsp. So login into your account. So if you observe over here, it is printing the message username or error password is invalid. If you want this to be displayed in the red color, you go to the same page index underscore one dot .jsp, and you can make use of the color attribute or any other CSS feature to display this into the red color. I'll say font color is equal to red, and then size, let me make it as 8, and apply this attribute only to this font. It is auto deployed. You just save Control S and then press refresh. Oof, 8 is what it is taking. It is a pretty small size, but it is taking a huge value. So username or password is invalid. Clear with this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hassan, please make the changes into your web, what you say, into your code. What the site what you have developed is, the code what you have written is correct, and then again you just have to make these changes to your code.
I just try to run that login, and I'm getting the console error is null pointer exception.
Null pointed exception.
Yeah.
Can you just let me know the detailed message, because now like this is the code what you have developed, forgot password, index, and then the register. When I am running it, my end it executes. Username and password first. Let me go with register. This is the code developed by Hassan. Hassan Submit. You're successfully registered. Check this. SQL plus HR. Oh, sorry. HR is the username. Password is again HR. So I have created a table by name register. Select star from register. So it is there. It has been registered. Now let us try to log in. Sun and password also this has. So login is successful. Forget password. Hassan@gmail.com. If you're sending it, then again it is redirecting you to the same page as per the code. That's correct. You just send me the snapshot of the complete error message. Copy the error message and send it to me.
Sure, I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
And I had one question, like when will server, there's a clean, publish, and restart. So what is this?
Clean,
What is the difference between these three?
clean.
Clean, publish, and restart.
Okay, for the server.
When I start the server, then if I right click on this, if I change anything, then if I want to restart the server, there's a other option like a clean and publish.
Oh, I think you're using Eclipse.
Right.
Which ID you're using?
Eclipse Java E.
Okay, fine. So over here, you will also get the same options, clean and build, this one. So if you say build, what it does is it will compile all your classes. If you go to this files, so and then this is the login module. Under this, you will find this build. So other than the classes what we have created, you require some okay, these are the classes. The WAR file it creates. So if you see over here, where is this dot classes? So if you see over here, that means okay, it has created these classes dot class files. It has automatically compiled. So when you say build, this is the directory structure that will be created by the NetBeans for deployment. So any lib files are there, it will copy this class file. This class is created and then it creates the WAR file folder. So this is automatically done by NetBeans. So these files are already present. Now, if you say right click and then clean and build if you have, then what it does is whatever existing classes are there, these existing classes first will delete this and then it will rebuild it again. And then when you say publish, you have got server over here. You have got server. So it has to be published onto this server. Onto the server, it should be published, it should be made available. So when you say published, it will put that code, it will host your code onto the server side. Clear with this?
Okay, so and if we do restart, it will do the same thing for publish, right?
No. Publishes, if you are restarting the server, that is, it will stop the server and it will start it again.
So if I stop and start or restart, it will do the same thing as a publish. If I do publish, then I don't need to restart again.
Now look, publish is for explicitly putting. Now look, over here you have got this. Let's say, let me create one more web application. Web application 2. Now, when I have created this web application, you find it onto the NetBeans IDE, but when you click it but when we click the server tab, you don't find it. And if you say publish, that web app 2 will be deployed onto the server. Over here, if you see, you have got web application 2, but it is not there onto this tab. It is not available on this tab, or it is not hosted onto the server. But when I say right click, there it is publish, over here it is deploy. There is just difference in the name. When you say deploy, then this web application will be hosted onto the server. Services, you click onto the application. So you have this application hosted onto the server. Now let's say I'm removing this undeploy. That is, you're removing this application. And you again have the options to start and restart the server. Over here you have got this. Right click, the last phase server, you have got this restart. So if you are restarting the server, it will stop and then restart the server. So publish is different, restart is different. I hope it is clear.
Okay, if I restart, then it will not come in the server. I have to publish it to come into server.
Yes, first you need to publish and then you have to restart. Without
Okay.
publishing, it will not be hosted onto your server side. Publish
Yeah,
and
that's why I don't see the changes. I don't see any. Sometimes if I change anything, then I don't see the changes.
you select the option autosave, deploy on autosave. You'll get the option over there. Deploy on autosave. If you're selecting that option, automatically your changes will be reflected.
Is this build
And
automatically?
yes, it will automatically deploy it onto the server the moment you're making the changes. The moment you press Control S, it is auto publish.
Mm-hmm.
So that option you need to select. That option you need to
Okay.
select. Browse it, right click on the folder, select preferences, and then you get it. Now, next, let us proceed. Delete this stuff. Now, next what we want is whenever you're writing the code, and once you use a login, then the user should be visible. Once the user login, we provide a logout button. Once the user login into the web page, ahref is equal to logout. Right, you need to, and then generally what happens is, I'm making use of the header. Hi, h1, hi, and whatever is the username. This is how it is done. It will display. That is, once the user has successfully logged in into the website, it will display the username. This is what we want. Now, once this user has logged in into the Gmail website, over here it displays this message. So this message is displayed or it is valid from login to login. It is valid from login to login. So when you want to display this message, you're typing this hi username. But this message, it should be valid from the time you log in to the time you log out. And then if you have any web pages, let's say you have got various web pages like inbox, outbox, etc., etc. If in case if it is a Gmail website, you have got inbox. Oh, sorry, it is not servlet. Right click, new JSP. So you have got a web page called inbox, outbox, etc., etc. So this is inbox, and then let's say you're having another page called outbox. So this is the stuff what you have. Inbox. Now in order to access this inbox and output, can you log in, sorry, would you be able to access this inbox and the outbox page without logging into the system? Can you access inbox and outbox if you're not logged in into the system? So what you have to
No.
do is when the user tries to access this web pages, you should ensure that the user is in the session, user has already logged in. If the user has logged in, then only the user will be allowed or permitted to access inbox and the outbox page. If the user is not logged in, then you should not permit the user to access this inbox and then the outbox page. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Now, in order to track the session, in order to find out when the user has tracked in and when the user has logged out. The time duration between this login and logout is called as session. It has to be tracked. It has to be tracked onto the website. The time duration between login to logout is called as session. This session, it has to be tracked. So when you have to track the session, what you do is you have to take help of HTTP session API. When you have to track the session, you need to take help of HTTP session API. One minute, let me plug in the charger. So how will you track the session? Hustle. How will you track the session? So any guesses how will you track the session? We have already completed this topic and I'm showing you how to do it. Again, we are addressing how to do this topic. So you will open the session when the user is, what did I say? If the user has logged in successfully, then only you will establish the session. Uh, or if the username and password is correct, then only will you establish the session. Or if the username and password is invalid, in that case also you will establish the session. So when will you establish the session? If username,
Only when the login is successful.
yes, when it is successful, then you should establish the session for the user. So if you want to establish the session for the user, then you will go with HTTP session. Session is equal to request dot get session. So once you have established this session, now this username that is being displayed, is it only for one request and one response cycle, or it is from login to logout? The username this is displayed. Now look, this is the second request what you are sending. This is the third request. The moment you click, it is taken as the separate request. So this username, whatever we are sending, it is valid from across multiple requests or across single request.
Across multiple requests from login to logout.
Login to logout. This is called as one request. You click on this, this is request. Whatever response has been sent, this is called as response. So one request and one response. If I'm clicking over here on important, the moment I click, this is request. This is what is being sent by the server. So this is called as response. And then I click over here send mail. This is the request what I am sending to the server. This page what is being displayed is response. So this is called as one request and one response cycle. But this username, it is accessible across all the user requests, multiple user request and response. So if you want your data to be accessible across multiple request and response cycle or throughout the session from login to logout, in which scope will you store, request scope or session scope? If you
Session
want,
scope.
yes, correct. You should store it in the session scope. So last time we have stored error message in which scope. Last time we have stored the error message in which scope, request scope or response scope. Sorry, session scope.
Last time we did it in the request scope.
Request scope. So that will be valid for only one request and one response cycle. So you're requesting HTTP session is equal to request.get session. So, and then in the session scope, what are you doing is you're setting the home attribute. In our case, it is the user. You're setting the username. Session.set attribute. Now this time you are storing session.set attribute of user comma Tom. In our case, we'll be storing the username. So the username is stored in the session scope. So let me complete. So as you said, you will be doing that if and only if it is valid. If it is valid, what you have to create, you need to establish the session for the user. HTTP session is equal to request.get session. So this code you need to modify. This is the code what you are modifying. And then in the session scope, session dot, what is that? Set attribute, username or user, whatever you want, you specify it, user. So you're storing the username in the session scope. And now, then let me just transfer the control. Response dot, for session scope, you can use response dot send redirect. It will also do the same job of transferring the control from one web page to the another web page. Response.send redirect will also transfer the control from one page to the another page. So there is a subtle difference between these two. Sorry, we are working on this. There is some difference between request dispatcher and the response.send redirect. I'll explain you that. So you can use any of this one. But with this session, you should use response.send redirect. So when you're doing this, your control will go to this home page. Your control will go to this home page. Now, when the control goes to this home page, now let us find out what we need to do. Now, next what you have to do is when the controller is going to that page, to the home page, you have to retrieve it. Session.set attribute is store it into the session scope, and session.get attribute, this one, HTTP session.get attribute of user. You have to retrieve this from the scope. You have to retrieve it, you have to retrieve the session attribute from the user scope, and if you have to print it, you can make use of out.println. So let us do that. So let me go to this. Rather than displaying this as the username, This is the JSP page. In JSP page, you can write the Java code. If you have to write the Java code and the JSP pages, then this tags you need to use. These are called as scripted tags. The reason we use this tags is because your JSP page contains HTML content as well as Java code. To separate the HTML content from the Java code, we make use of scriptlets. So in the scriptlets you can write any valid Java code. So let me start. String username is equal to session dot get attribute of user session dot get attribute of username, and then typecast this to string. Now after this is done, rather than just writing username, you will print it so is equal to username. This is called as scriptlet tag, and this one is called as expression tag. This is called as scriptlet tag, and this one is called as expression tag. So this expression tag is equivalent to, so this one is equal, this is called as comment. This is equivalent to your out.println of username. So rather than writing out.println, you are writing it, you're just writing it in terms of expression tag. So this is equivalent to this percentile equal to and then username. So system will consider it as out.println of username. Now I want the same code in the inbox as well as in the outbox. So if I want, let me just copy and then paste this. This is what we mean. It is accessible in on store it. It is accessible in the inbox page as well as it is accessible in the outbox page. Right click and then say format. Right click, clean and build. From here also you can execute it directly. So you have got John at the rate 123. Click yes. So home page to be developed, you've got this hi John. So this John, it is retrieved from session scope. So from login to logout, it will be valid. And then you have got inbox.jsp. So over here also John is there. And then you have got outbox.jsp. Over here also you find John. So when the attribute is stored in the session scope, it is accessible throughout your web application. See this one, you're storing it in the request scope, and if in case if it is error, we have already done that. It should dispatch it to this page. Clear with this? If the username and password is valid,
Adhika, why that get session is being executed on request object?
because the container you don't have over here, whenever you are working with the Tomcat or any servlet API, the container, if you want the session object, you don't get it. Okay, you cannot call new HTTP session. The way to get the session object in your servlet is you have to request the request object to give you the session. It is a factory method. If you call get session, then you will get it. You have to request, make a request to the request object to give you a session object. It is through the request object you are getting the session object. If you observe this diagram, you will be able to follow. Now over here, if you see, in order to track the session for this user, you require a session. In order to maintain the session for this, you require a session object on the server side. So if you have to get the session object for this request, you will take help of request object to get the session. So this is how it works. Directly, okay, you don't get access to the session. Via servlet, you'll make a request to the request object to provide you with the session object. So that you do it with the help of request.getSession. Clear with this? Now, how you want? You want HTTP
Can we
session
see?
is
Can we see the code? 1 second. Can we see the code? How that session is being passed? I think that part I missed. From this servlet to another servlet or another web component. How this session object is being passed?
session object is not passed. You don't pass the session object. By default, the lifetime of the session object is from login to logout. Session object is not passed from one servlet to the another servlet. Its
Okay,
lifetime
only
is
to get the access to the session object, we are making use of the request
yes.
object in that particular servlet. Otherwise, the session, I don't have to pass it. So, because it's
No.
available for throughout.
Yes. The moment you create it, it is
Okay.
available to all the web components. So I think this figure will help
Okay.
you understand. And all these figures, they are available, I guess, over here. So once you create this session object, it is accessible to all the components. You don't have to pass. Whereas your request and response object, see, if you see this request and response, it are available to the particular component. It is available to that specific, what do you say, servlet or JSP. You don't get it. So where is that? Now, this one is available to all the components, whereas request and response object, now see, each one will have its own specific. And when you are forwarding it, the same request and response object is forwarded to the another servlet. Now, uh, we have used response.send redirect. The difference between the request rd.forward request comma response and then the response.send redirect. This is rd.forward, this one is response.send redirect. Now let us see what happens. So when you're calling response.send redirect, it will transfer the control to the other servlet. But if you see, these objects are being destroyed. These objects will be destroyed. The container will destroy these objects. It will destroy these objects and then it will create new objects. So your old request and response objects are destroyed and a new request and response object is created. So this is the difference between the response.send redirect and rd.forward. When it comes to rd.forward, it is the same request and response object that is carried forward. Whereas when it comes to response.send redirect, your previous request and response object are destroyed and this one is treated as fresh request. This one is treated as fresh request. For each fresh request or for each new request, the container creates request and response object. Is it clear the difference between rd.forward and response.send redirect?
Yeah, but only, but the session, whatever we put in the session, that will be available. That's what you mentioned, right? Like,
Yes, yes. Let's say we have
okay.
created session object over here. Let's say you have created this session object. So this will not have any effect. This will be made accessible over here also. It is accessible to all. Session object is not specific to a servlet. It is valid from login to logout. Unless and until you click logout,
Okay.
this session object, it will be valid. So it will be accessible to this component as well, as well as it is accessible to this component. So its lifetime is from login to logout. This object lifetime is request is one request and one response cycle. So let's say, okay, this is your computer and this is your container. So this is the client. So when the client is sending the request, the container creates two objects. One is request, the second one is response. So when this response is committed to the client, this is called as one request and response cycle. This is called as one request and one response cycle. So once the request and response cycle is completed, the container will destroy both request as well as response object. But whereas in case of session, it will be valid. Clear with this?
Yeah.
Okay. So with this, we'll wind up the session for today. Shall we have a session tomorrow so that we can complete sessions? Is it possible for you to make it to the class tomorrow so that we will be able to complete the leftover
Tomorrow same
concept?
time?
Yeah, same time. If all are comfortable, then can I get response from Hassan, Roma?
Uh, I'm fine. I'll be available if others are fine with it. Yeah, I can
Okay,
make myself available. Yes.
Hassan, Roma, and Zahid. If in case if you can make it tomorrow, then we will have. Otherwise, then it's fine. Okay, okay, so, okay. Sorry. Tomorrow we are having session. I was in confusion that tomorrow is Saturday. So, yeah, tomorrow is Saturday only. Okay, Hassan is okay. So can we have session tomorrow? Roma and okay, Roma is okay. Zahid, is it okay if we have session tomorrow? Bhuvana is okay. Hassan is okay. Roma is okay. Any inconvenience, Zahid, from your side if we have session tomorrow? Javed, can you please give your response? I'm waiting. Maybe Zahid is not available. He might have left. So anyway, okay, tomorrow we'll again conduct the session on the same time at 7:30 p. So that okay, we can complete this session concept. And I kindly request you to practice all these. So tomorrow we'll conduct the session at the same time.
Tika, I have some questions for you. How do I suppose I need reference for the code that or the project that you're writing? How can I have reference to your code?
Okay, fine. I'll upload it. Usually I don't upload. I'll upload it.
Okay, and so we'll be getting the link.
And yes, you'll get access to that link.
Okay, and I was noting down like what are all the topics we are covering so that I can work on it. If possible, if you can give assignments like like just one line or like two lines, something like that, it would be. Or I can choose my own application. If possible, please give us assignments like in one
Okay,
line.
fine.
Like
Like
develop
already
this
we have
page.
completed few assignments. You can
Oh, is it
consider
okay?
this
Can I have
assignment
them
itself
like
running
link or questions?
this one. You can consider this as running assignment itself. You can develop
Okay.
complete. You can pick up any
Okay.
template of your choice and you can start working. If you're good at HTML, then you can design the web pages as
Okay. Okay, Atia. Thank you.
well. Okay, sure. Any exercises and all,
Thank
I'll
you so
forward
much.
it to you.
Mm.
Exercises, I think, okay, I'll just request them to share the link and afterwards you will have all the exercises you can work on. So that's all for the day from my end. So we'll wind up the session for today. Tomorrow again we'll conduct the class at 7:30. Please join for the session tomorrow. Bye bye.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Bye.